Yeah. Okay, so welcome again. This is another session by I Have Learned Academy in collaboration with Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. I would like to welcome you all and to remind you of very simple rules. Like, we're going to have the talk from 8:30 to 10 p.m. sharp. And you can ask your questions whenever you have a question on the chat box here. I just sent a hello. So you can at any time ask your questions, and we will be having a time for questions at the end or during the talk. And if you really need to talk and to express yourself, you can raise your hands and we will assign the word for you. Okay, so just before I introduce our speaker and get to immediately go into our talk, I would like just to remind you about who we are and what we're doing here. So my name is Randa Farah, and I am the founder of I Have Learned Academy. I Have Learned Academy is a place where we teach everything that you did not learn at school or university, because we have a lot of things that no one really taught us at school or at university, and this is why we actually see lots of people struggling in life. I'm also an instructor at USG and the founder of Leptivity.com, which is a calendar for events, and we organize workshops, trainings. This is like some of our events before Corona, where we used to have like 500 people in a room. And as things have changed, we have moved online for the time being. So this is Leptivity, the calendar for events. I'm sure many of you also discovered the talk from Leptivity. So mostly we cover all the aspects of life. So we cover all the events that are like everything related to business, relationships, self-development, etc. And we have partnered with Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, the German foundation, since almost like more than a year, almost 2 years. And we have done lots of talks already. The first year was Talk Innovation and Think Tank for a Better Lebanon. We hosted so many speakers. We had so many interesting talks and panels. We spoke about the financial inflation, the corruption, oil and gas. We hosted some leaders among us. We had a lot of talks about why do we follow leaders, technology and governance. We had a talk with Sarah Yafi about the new generation and politics. And we continued this series also last year with also the public health sector with Dr. Firas Abiad before he became a minister, Gilbert Doumet, electricity, etc. Lots of talks, and even we covered the trains in Lebanon, the waste management, and plenty of other topics. So this year we are continuing this amazing series with and the new talks. So I invite you to stay tuned to discover more the upcoming talks. So our last session last year were about solar panels, and also a discussion with Nadine Lebake about Lebanon and lots of things. So this year in 2022, we have a new edition, Thoughts and Talks for a Better Lebanon, and we're going to have 2 free talks every month about how to make Lebanon a better place. So today we're going to start the series with Nicolas Chikhani. I'm very happy to host Nicolas Chikhani. We're going to introduce Nicolas in a minute. And next time we are going to host Assad Zabien, who is going to talk about big data, transparency, and access to information. So I also invite you to join this session and to book your free slot on www.ihavelearned.me/events. So this is going to be next Tuesday. Also, we have done a beautiful art exhibition, also in collaboration with Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. And this exhibition is called Echoes from Lebanon, and it's about arts and politics. So we had this idea, especially after the Beirut blast, to show this, the pain of, the Lebanese people and everything they are going through art. And you can go into this website, artsandpolitics.me, and discover the in virtual reality 5 rooms about Lebanon, the situation in Lebanon. So it's divided into 5 actually big themes: Lebanon's struggles, so all the problems in Lebanon related to the pollution, to like the corruption, the inflation, everything that's going on. The second room is about the revolution. The third one is about the Beirut blast. And the fourth is about what happened after the blast. And we added a 5th one, a tribute to the victims. So I invite you to discover this room. I'm going to just put it on mute while I talk. So you will have to just enter the website and discover this beautiful exhibition. and click on every artwork to discover the story behind it and the artist who did it. So if you are a fan of art, you're gonna really enjoy this this edition. Also, we started already going to other countries. So we started already Jordan, and soon we have the launching of Syria and Iraq. So you can also discover arts and politics in Syria and Iraq. And soon also we are going to have Tunis as a new country as well. So please take a minute to follow us on social media. I have Learned Academy and also Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and stay tuned for our upcoming talks and sessions. So without further ado, I would like just to start with Nicolas. So Nicolas Chikhani holds executive degrees in business and finance from INSEAD and the Harvard Business School. He is an engineer in computer science with a specialization in cryptocurrency from the London School of Economics. Nicolas is a seasoned banker with deep knowledge in finance and economy. He worked in the banking sector in Paris, London, Singapore, Dubai, Beirut, and Geneva. Through his 28 years of international professional experience, he held executive level positions as CFO, COO, and lately as CEO for a blue chip regional bank in Switzerland. He also held board positions in international banks, global NGOs, and fintech companies. Nicolas is not a member of any political party. Currently, he serves as a Knight in the Order of Malta. He is also a member of the Swiss Forum of International Politics and also of the Crypto Valley Associations in Switzerland, and also of the SICTIC, Swiss Investor Club, and LIFE. Last, he was a former advisory board member of Offrejoie, and he is also an instructor at USG. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to our very interesting speaker tonight, Nicolas Chikhani. Nicolas, the screen is yours, not the floor.
Bonsoir, Randa. Bonsoir, everyone. I'm very honored and pleased to be with you tonight. You are too kind with me, Randa. In fact, I just discovered that Randa and I are both teachers at the USG, and we have Nicole with us tonight, I noticed. So we are teachers tonight among each other, as we say. I would like to thank you, Randa, for this invitation. I'm really pleased and honored to be with you tonight.
Just a small thing, like usually we do our talks in English because we have an international audience, so we have people from Germany and everyone, but if no one has a problem, we can make it in Arabic, so it's up to you. You can just give me a sign. If anyone only speaks English, please just give me a sign now so that we continue in English. Even if it's one person, we would do it in English.
No, we will do it in English, and
okay,
we will mix it with Arabic if someone wants to ask a question in Arabic,
sure.
Or if someone has a question, he didn't understand the English terms, we can switch to French, Arabic, or English, but let's continue in English. It's easier for everybody, I think. He who has questions, please raise your hand, interrupt me, don't hesitate. Ask question as much as you want, as much as you can. That's how we learn. Thank you very much, Randa. I'm really pleased. It's my first time with you in this academy, online academy. Randa asked me many times to come. Unfortunately, the agendas didn't fit, and we are here today. I'm very glad to have 83 people tonight. I'm very pleased. It's a nice number. What Randa asked me to present tonight is what's happening in the Lebanese economy. What's the future of Lebanon? Where are we going? Why did this happen? How to solve it? What is the next roadmap for this country? Is the government doing the right thing today or not? Are we going to sign with the IMF? All these questions, we're going to try to answer them tonight. I'm going to structure the presentation into three parts. The first one, the history. Why did we reach this level? Are we responsible of it, yes or no? Second, what is the problem? So we need to identify the problem in order to solve the problem. And how to solve the problem, and what is the next step for the future. So this is the structure of our presentation tonight. I'll have some slides to present to you. And if you have questions, send them on the chat or raise your hand. I'll try not to interrupt immediately, but from time to time, I will open for questions. We will not leave it to the end because you will forget what you heard at the beginning. So in the middle, every 10, 15 minutes, we'll open for question, Randa. Like this, it's easy for everybody. So let's start. Okay, so we are here to discuss Lebanon 3.0 financial economy. What does it mean? As we know, Lebanon has been known as being the Swiss of the Middle East. Okay, very nice term, cheesy term, Lebanon, Swiss of the Middle East, banking sector, secret banking, all this stuff that we were proud of it in the past. Today, this means nothing anymore. Doesn't mean anything. Swiss of the Middle East, we are not even a country in the Middle East. Okay, we are barely have a financial system. The secret banking today is, we are maybe the only country in the world that has a real secret banking. People has lifted it up because behind the secret banking, all the mafia, all the, the transaction, the money laundering transaction are hidden. So today, the principle is to open for transparency. Lebanon was known to have a secret banking to attract capitals because here we can protect your interest and we can hide you. Today, nothing should be hidden. We are in an opposite situation. And this bank secrecy is making us problem today. For example, for the forensic audit that is being happening, let's say, at the central bank. So all these things are really putting us in a difficult situation. It's time to think it differently. It's time to catch up on 20 years of wrong management, 20 years of wrong banking. We have a strong banking system. No, it's not true. The proof is in the pudding. Today, the banks are almost bankrupt. So no, we need to set up the real standard, the international standard for this country that we have been hiding behind. We are the best. We are not the best. We are the worst. Okay, but we can be the best. We have the potential to become the best because the private initiative shows that Lebanese succeed everywhere. But here in their country, because they take it easy and they try to encounter the system because we would like to become or be or look smart. In fact, we have failed. If we agree that we have failed because today our financial system is broken, our state is over in debt, our government has a fiscal deficit, we have a country that has defaulted on its public and sovereign debt, the Eurobond. The depositor has lost most of their money. So if this is not a failure, what is failure? I'm going to try to be less pessimistic and build for you a beautiful image for the future. I've been traveling around for the last few months, and I can confirm to you that the Lebanese mind and the Lebanese initiative and the private initiative is one of the strongest in the world. I am sure if we set the right tools, the right system in place, the recovery of the country can go much faster than it's expected today by the central bank or the World Bank or the IMF or whatever you call it. Okay, the strength of this country is his human being, and his weakness is his human being as well. So let's build on the strengths. Okay, put the framework to avoid our weaknesses and get it right for once. For the last 100 years, every 20 years we were failing. You grow your economy, you have a problem, a war, you have an issue, and everything, you create value destruction. Okay. In the big schools, you learn about value creation and value destruction. Okay, in Harvard, all the business schools, value creation. Okay, everybody can teach value creation, but no one can teach value destruction. Okay, the best example of value destruction. I think something happened here.
Don't worry, I handled it.
No worry. I think that the best example of value destruction was a Great Depression of 1929 in the US, where you have a huge depression and worldwide economic collapse. We call it the huge depression, la grande crise économique dépression de 1929. Okay, since there was no example of depression. Lebanon is the second example in the history of the world of getting into a depression. A depression is a second level of an economic crisis. Okay, you have economic crisis, you have a recession, and you have a depression. Okay, we are in a real depression, an example that can be taught in business schools, unfortunately. Okay, why did we reach there? Okay, you know, in a plane that's flying and that crashes, it never crashes because of one problem. On average, it's known that when a plane crashes, it crashes because there is on average 32 to 33 defects that happens at the same time for a plane to crash. Exactly for an economy. Economy cannot crash overnight. It cannot crash after the 17th of November 2019 or before 17th. It's not one day that make an economy crash. An economic crash because there is a multitude of wrong decision or mismanagement or effect, internal or external, that hit a country that makes its economy collapse. Okay, this is what happened in Lebanon. And I'm gonna show you a first slide where I will go back to the history of Lebanon. Okay, everybody can see this. Okay,
Yes.
and based on that, we're gonna explain what went wrong over the last 20 or 25 years, okay, that make us reach this level of value destruction. Okay, first, let's come with the positive things. Okay, just for your information, 1955, Lebanon was the 9th country in the world in terms of GDP per capita. That means every kid that used to born in Lebanon was worth $10,563. Okay, this was his value. Okay, today every kid has a liability, has a debt on his head of around $25,000. Okay, it's a pity. In recent times, Lebanon has been classified, and this is a slide that is old, around a few months. Recently today, the World Bank has released a new report showing that Lebanon is behind Venezuela and even Ethiopia. Okay, we are 65 country before Venezuela. Now we are after Venezuela, right? In the second level country classification, not even first level. Okay, and when you look, when we were in 1955, when we are today, khalas, we can stop the presentation here and we say, what happened? What the hell happened? Okay, you take a CEO, you put it in a company, and you tell him, I give you a company that the 9th in the world, like Lebanon in 1955, make it number 1. The first year he missed it. Second year he missed it. You find a CEO. After 50 years, we are 65 in the second level country. Yani khalas, it's the end. We are the last country in the globe, okay, in terms of economic collapse. And the CEO was not fired. The CEO not only should be fired, the CEO should go to jail and be accountable on everything. No one since 50 years went to jail, okay? What they can do, they can catch the little guy who can steal your car or steal your house. But the big guy who steal your money at the bank and steal the country is still free and even running again in his political life. So we have a problem in this country. There is no accountability. Before we do economy, we need accountability. So the first thing to do before all this presentation is to set up what we call the rule of law. دولة القانون والمؤسسات, rule of law, where you have the independence of justice. As long as you don't have the rule of law and independence of justice, we can talk for hours and days and years. Set the best beautiful plan for our economy, it will never work. It will collapse again after a few years. So ناقصنا نحن دولة المؤسسات والقوانين, the rule of law, la règle de la loi et des institutions. C'est très important. Okay, so Lebanon has collapsed, as you see. Just another example. It's a ticket that I got from an old Orient Le Jour. okay, 1963, Lebanon was the most prosperous country, one of the fourth most prosperous country in the world. Imagine where we are today, okay? Where we are today, okay? Why did it happen? Okay, I will take 5 minutes on that because I have very interesting things to talk about it for the future and the new plan, recovery plan. But why did it happen? Okay, I put here a list of dates starting 1993 to 2019 to understand what happened. We have to know in every economy, the most important indicator is the balance of payment. Okay, la balance des paiements, يعني ميزان المدفوعات in Arabic. Okay, what does the balance of payment mean? The balance of payment mean will calculate at the level of the country consolidation of every money that gets in and every money that gets out in terms of foreign currency mainly. يعني all the money that gets in minus all the money that gets out, net it's positive or negative. If it's positive, that means we have a surplus of dollars or euros that get into the country. That means, for example, we have exported more than we have imported. You export more, you get more money than you import. You have positive income into the country. When you have a positive income into the country of foreign currency, you can build what we call reserve in the central bank that can be used to run the economy. If you have a negative balance of payment, that means negative dollar that went out of the country, that means, for example, you exported less than you have imported, okay? You have a deficit in your foreign currency, and your current reserve at the central bank need to finance this loss in order to rerun the economy for the next year and to create a new budget. Like in a company, when the company has a deficit, it cannot open a new budget, accounting-wise, unless the shareholders put money again on the table, right? Or reduce your capital. So it's the same for a country. If you notice, until 2021, okay, our balance of payment, this column is the balance of payment, okay? This column is the balance of payment. Until 2021, 2020, the balance of payment was positive, okay, or slightly negative, 0.3, nothing. In 2021, we had a problem. In 2021, the balance of payment turned negative. It happens. If it's a one-off 1 year, it happens. And at that time, President Hariri has noticed, Prime Minister Hariri has noticed that something wrong was happening, okay? And maybe he was the only one who noticed that, okay? And that's why he went to Paris and brought Paris 1 and Paris 2 in order to finance this gap. Because when you have minus 1.2 billion, okay, you need reserve to cover this deficit, okay? And the central bank at that time was very small, didn't have the needed or enough reserve or full reserve to cover this. So they went to Paris and brought Paris 1 and Paris 2, and immediately it's $2.2 billion. Immediately you see they injected this $2 billion from minus 1.2 to plus 1.6, around $2.5 billion, okay? That, of course, plus the economy that was running, automatically it turned positive, and it did some injection in the economy to put some, you know, fuel in the car to make it run. Second year, it turned positive, but again, it went back to a very little level. Then second, the government at that time started promoting Lebanon. They promoted the lands, they promoted the apartment al-Bahar, they promoted, you know, tourism, and it started growing. But we should not forget that tourism and real estate is not an economy. Tourism and real estate in economy are the cherry on the cake. They bring quick, fast money, fresh money to the table, but the fastest they bring it, the faster it goes out. A tourist, would you put, for example, I don't know, a bomb in town, no tourists will come anymore, and you lose all the fresh money that could come very fast to the country. So you don't build an economy on tourism. Tourism should be the cherry of the cake. You build economy when you build infrastructure, when you build industry, when you create export, when you improve the agriculture, when you help and subsidize the service, the startups, create call centers in Lebanon. Everything that you export, you create value for the economy. It's not tourism. Tourism is good, very good, right? But you don't create economy with tourism only. So they really concentrated on real estate and tourism. And that's why the price of real estate goes so high. Used to come people from the GCC and buy lands at $5, $10 million, $15 million, $20 million in Ashrafiyya or in Hamra. Crazy, you know, in Champs-Élysées, the prices was not as much as expensive. So it created a bubble that inflated everything instead of creating a structured, solid, and robust economy. And everybody was living in this bubble, hype. لبنان بألف خير, المطاعم, السهرات, all these things. But in fact, reality was maybe 1/10 of what you were seeing. Okay? And all the bankers used to tell their clients, look, Lebanon, lira is very strong, is stable. What they have done, in fact, I forgot to tell you, since 2021, in order to create this stability for the foreign investors, okay, they stabilized the lira, they pegged the lira to the dollar at 1,507.5. Okay, this is good. It's good to peg the lira, but for a short period. You peg the lira in order to attract, you know, foreign direct investors, foreign, like the tourism, like real estate, like investment in company, but you do it during a program. You don't do it forever, okay? Because when you peg the lira to the dollar, the price of the lira become very strong, and you don't, you lose your competitiveness at the export. That means the price of the salaries become high in Lebanon. Okay, I remember in 2020, when I came to Lebanon, the salaries were very low. So suddenly people start earning $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, net. Okay, like $10,000 in Paris. It's a huge salary. A regular salary in Lebanon was $4,000, $5,000. Come on. Okay, so this because the lira was strong, and it created an inflationary on the wages, and people start living over like in a bubble, okay, where reality was not here. Instead of creating a structured economy, instead of addressing the problem of the balance of payment. So the balance of payment start increasing, and it reached an apogee in 2029, okay? Okay, here it kicked up again because we have the war of 2006, and we received so many aids from outside. Some countries in the GCC put big number in the central bank, big amount of money to support the Lebanon, etc. So it's ticked up, but nothing structural well done. Our balance of payment was always deficitary, and the deficit start increasing, okay, more and more. We were always importing much more than when we were exporting, and this led to a big structural problem in the economy. صباح لحقيني كلكم صباح, it's okay. Okay. What happened in 2011? In 2011, something very important happened that really dislocated the shaky economy, the shaky structure of the economy. And what happened is the war in Syria.
So we have a comment that they are saying it's 2001 and not 2021.
Sorry, it was 2001, so I mistake.
Yes.
Lapsus. If you forgive me. It's written 2001, huh? But I said it was the 21, so sorry for that. If you're gonna catch me on every word, I'm gonna catch you at the end.
No, just to make it clear, because it's written on the chat so that people do not confuse.
Thank you for correcting me, in fact.
Thank you.
Correct me every time, right? The floor is yours, not mine. I'm just here to present you, but the session is for you. So what happened in 2011, in fact, is the war in Syria. War in Syria has impacted Lebanon on two sides. The first one, on the balance of services. Okay? The balance of payment that we were talking about, which is the most important equation in the economical field for a country, We said net income minus net outcome in foreign currency that give you a profit or a loss for a country. But this balance of payment is constituted of many sub-balances: the balance of trade, the balance of service, the balance The balance of service, okay, in 2011 lost overnight $3 billion, because Lebanon was extremely exposed to the Syrian market in terms of service. You remember the banks used to start opening in Syria, hospitals, even construction company. All the service, I mean, brains were exported to Syria, to Iraq, to Erbil, to Basra, all these countries that exploded overnight in 1 year. And we lost $3 billion from the income from this country. At the same time, we received 1.5 million refugees in Lebanon that were paid in Lebanon between $300 and $500 a month, as you know. They used to spend 20% in Lebanon and send 80% to their home country. That created an additional bleeding or leakage of $3 billion. So $3 billion less in income, $3 billion more in expenses. The cap becomes $6 billion. And you see here, plus 3.3 minus 2, about $5.3 billion. There was other factors that impacted, but this was the first hit in Lebanon in 2011. And why did it happen? Because we don't have a structural economy. The first shake, okay, the economy was led by the private sector, mainly. The public sector was really pumping the economy. The private sector were injecting in the economy money, but the private sector did not have a long-term strategy, short-term strategy, quick wins, quick income, like positioning in Syria, high-risk country, high return, but high risk as well. So since that day, the balance of payments start deteriorating, okay, and start until okay, the country couldn't continue to finance, okay, these losses, because no one was giving money, no said. Paris 1, Paris 2, they refused to give Paris 3 because we didn't use the money correctly. Okay, what should we do? Okay, we should start counting on the diaspora to send money to the country. How do you incentivize the diaspora to send money to the country? You increase the interest rate. So your bank will tell you, come put your money in Lebanon, you get 3.5% interest, while in Switzerland they give you 0.1, okay, on the dollar, or 0.5. Okay, so they start selling it, and it helped a little bit until, but not enough. Okay, not enough. The bleeding was so big, and if you look at the balance of payment, it was losing up. The balance of trade was negative $17 billion a year. The balance of payment minus $6 billion. That means every year $6 billion was negative, need to be offset. So they start bringing diaspora money, but not enough. Okay, until the central bank said, okay, we need to do something. They did something, but the wrong thing. Okay, they did the first financial engineering in 2016. This is the red dot here, 2016. First financial engineering, الهندسة المالية, les ingénieries financières de la Banque centrale. Okay, qui en fait, in fact, didn't bring much money to the country. Maybe the first or two ones, they brought $4 or $5 billion. Okay, which turned minus 3.4 to 1.2. But the second one didn't succeed pretty well, creating further losses, because when you do a financial engineering, there is a cost somewhere. Okay, in finance, there is no free lunch. If you win here, you have to lose here. Marfi. Okay, or you print money and you devalue it. Okay, globally, en général, c'est un peu plus complex, but in summary it is. So I'm trying to make it simple for everyone so we can understand it. So the first financial engineering succeeded so far. The second and the third until 2018 didn't succeed, and the balance of payments start increasing, deteriorating further. The highest deterioration ever in the history of Lebanon happened in 2018. No economy, okay, no money. We are overspending, living in this bubble, but we are not creating value. Okay, spending. Nobody is seeing it. Okay, most of the people, but some people were seeing it. Okay, let's face it, and we're going to explain it later on. Until the 19th of 17th of October, where the bank closed for 17 days. And here happened the most critical day in the history of the banking system in Lebanon. okay, that can be taught in economy and financial books, something called bank run. Okay, bank run is something that should never happen in a country. Okay, what's a bank run? Okay, it happens in 1929, the same bank run. The banks has closed, and when they opened, everybody ran to the bank because they lost trust in the financial system to pull their money out. Okay, the bank should not have closed. If we had a collapse the 19th of November, it's not because of the Saura, it's because we have 20 years of wrong management, wrong economy, no value creation, full value destruction, and because the trust was lost. And the cherry on the cake in that case was the bank closed 17th of November for 15 days, creating full destruction of the trust of the depositor in the financial system. They all ran to take their money. The money did not exist. No bank can give you money. They can give 5-10% to their depositor maximum. Okay, but everybody wants 100% of the deposit. So that the huge collapse happened. Okay, and the bank installed this unfair or wrong capital control. Okay, that is not institutional, nor a law, nor a constitutional system. It was istensebe. That means they had some of the people getting out of the country. They stopped the others, but when there was a scandal, they stopped doing it, and it was as a capital control. It's not a capital control. It's a rule that the bank has decided to put, okay, and avoiding you transfer money out of the country. Why? Because they don't have money anymore. Okay, I'm going to explain this. Is it clear? Is there any question before going to the next section?
We have plenty of comments. However, I think you covered most of the questions asked. So let's just go on, and then we can take the questions that are not covered. I love your structure, Nicolas. You're very structured and clear. وكمان people are confirming very good and smooth. So far everything is clear. And let's continue.
Okay, great. Okay, great. If there is any question, please let me know. And every 2-3 slides, I will stop. Next. Okay, this is the balance of payment, but just to show you how it deteriorated. Okay, the balance of service, when a balance of service, okay, the service balance deteriorated from 6.4 billion in 2011 to 3.5 billion in revenue. That means we lost $3 billion from the balance of payment, and the remittances debit increased here because at the end of the year, it's not year on year, this is a P&L, okay, by 3.857 billion. Okay, we had some before because we have the Egyptians and the Filipinos, but it was never as high, and it continued increasing to 4 billion with the refugees. So it did a double impact on the balance of payment. So what happened? Quickly, everybody knows this number. I'm not going to spend time here. Okay, where are we today? We have an inflation that crossed the 100%. This slide, I'm sorry, this slide has a couple of months old, plus hyperinflation. It's not coming hyperinflation, plus hyperinflation. What's an hyperinflation? It's a status where we are, the inflation increased 50%, cumulative 15%, and we enter into hyperinflation. That means the prices are increasing more than 50% continuously. Okay, and this is very so this is very dangerous, because when you get into a hyperinflation, that means you reach the level of Venezuela. And why we was worried about the hyperinflation? Inflation is okay. High inflation is not good. But hyperinflation is the worst, because the hyperinflation will not allow a GDP growth as needed to do a recovery in the country. Okay, when we do a recovery plan in a country, and you heard about the recovery plan of the government and the previous government, and the recovery plan of the IMF and Lazar and blah 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 blah. Okay, they are all based on something called GDP growth. يعني ناتج محلي النمو الناتج المحلي. يعني in France, le PIB, la croissance du PIB. Okay, they all table on a GDP growth of a minimum 5%. And most of them, they put 7% because they want to see a nice number in the Excel at the end. The reality is different, okay? When you enter into a hyperinflation, it becomes extremely difficult to do a GDP growth of 5%. You need to do a restructuring of the economy, bring back the economy to a normal inflation or a high inflation, fine, but not hyperinflation, then build a GDP growth. And this is what they are not doing, okay? We have been highlighting the hyperinflation. Anna, if you hear my video for at least a year and a half, I was, please, let's not go into hyperinflation. Please. No, they went into the hyperinflation. Just for information, for the last 2 years and a half, the government has not done anything. The government, the parliament, and any political party, no one, okay, has done anything, okay, not even a speech on TV, okay, to say that I'm gonna improve the economy, I'm gonna do this this action, or this, I'll take this initiative to stop the bleeding, okay. No one, okay. They have done one action, is to default on the Eurobond. The default of the Eurobond, I say it, and I'm responsible of my words, okay? And I'm ready to sit in front of everyone, okay, on TV, okay? Then this is the worst thing that happened to Lebanon, worse than all the 20 years of wrong economy management, because the Eurobond costs the country $40 billion, and the depositors $30 billion. Very simple, okay? We had 30 billion of Eurobonds, okay, of which between 15 and 20 were owned by the banks and 5 by the central bank. The rest was external debtors, okay? The banks were owning this amount, not with their money, with the money of the depositor. And the central bank bought this Eurobond with the money of the banks, which were the money of the depositors as well. So when the government took the decision on 9th of March, okay, this is a very important date in the history of Lebanon, to default on the Eurobond because they don't want to pay 1 billion, 1.2 billion of interest, okay? They in fact overnight did a haircut on $20 billion on depositors without counting all the interest, margin calls that we are not getting into this. The total impact is around $35 to $40 billion on the Lebanese economy. A catastrophe. Okay? There should be an accountability here. We cannot default on a sovereign debt without a plan. Okay? They will tell you, oh, in other countries, they did not have a plan. So what? It's not because in Chihuahua, Banana Republic, there is no plan, that we should not have a plan. Okay? So the only thing they defaulted on Eurobond, this is the only action they did. Okay? And they presented a Ta'afi plan from Lazar that does further and further haircut. Unfortunately, nothing happened since, and it's worse now. Better we could have accepted this plan, which was really wrong, than having what's happening today. Unfortunately, but khalas, this is the past. Okay, employment rate reached 60% minimum. Okay, under poverty rate 70%. It's not me who's saying it's World Bank numbers. Devaluation vs black market, khalas, I did 1000% also. It's a month or 2 months ago. Non-performing loans, that means الديون المتعثرة, which are the banks, the loans with the banks, are now crossing 15%. This is on the economic side. And you cannot imagine how this value destruction is big. I don't want to destroy, your hopes, but we are not in a good shape. Okay, for not saying something else. Okay, this is on the economy. On the financial side, yeah, the debt of the country crossed $100 billion. Our GDP is between 0.18 today. The World Bank saying 21.5 billion GDP. Okay, so 21 over 100, approximately 500% debt over GDP, which is the worst debt over GDP in the history of humanity. Government, and we're still there, we're still living, we're still going out. In fact, we are spending our capital. Our money in the bank are depleting. We are not creating value anymore. Until when? Until there is nothing anymore. Okay, central bank, just for the record, in 2019, had a reserve of 37 to 38 billion dollar. 37 billion dollar. Okay, 37, of which 15 was هول بسمون الاحتياط الإلزامي, the reserve that are not used, 37 of which 15 cannot be used. That means they have 17 billion that you can use. And the GDP of country of Lebanon last year was 18, 17 that can use GDP 18. That means they had enough money in the central bank to rebuild the GDP in Lebanon. But what they have done, they have spent it on subsidies. They spent $17 billion on subsidies, oil, wheat, khubz, medicines, of which 75% didn't reach the people in need. They went tahrib and smuggling, all this stuff, and they spent $17 billion. And now they are running to get $5 billion from the IMF over 5 years. This is criminal. بحق الشعب اللبناني. Okay? Brief. Government deficit $5.6 billion, BDS gross losses, and this is very important. The هندسة المالية, the financial engineering, has created a loss in the BDL, plus the pegging of the dollar, plus the subsidies of the states and the balance of payment, has accumulated losses because the balance of payment was negative, as we said. So how gonna finance the deficits? By creating losses. Okay, they are not creating value, because our problem is the balance of payment, and the balance of payment can be corrected if you correct the economy and the structure of the economy. That's all. This is what we wanted for 20 years, which they didn't do. Okay. Banks are under bankruptcy 80%. Why? Why? Because the banks had 15 billion on Eurobonds. Okay. They had positions at the central bank that doesn't exist anymore. Okay. Around 30 billion, 70 billion at the central bank. Okay. And they have non-performing loan that we are discussing here, 15%. You add it all, the banks has around $40 billion of losses, and their capital is 21 billion. So they are technically bankrupt. So don't be afraid. Okay, they didn't declare bankruptcy, but they are technically bankrupt. Okay, so all of them. No, let's be fair to some of these. 85 to 90% of them are technically bankrupt. Okay, so we have a problem. Okay, and usable foreign currency. Okay, which means the foreign currency as a central bank that we can use, the 17 billion I talked to you about, is zero. There is no foreign currency. That's why he lifted the subsidies. شيل الدعم. ما شيل الدعم لأنه بحب يشيل الدعم. شيل الدعم لأنه ما في مصاري. There is no money. Okay, there is this 15 billion that are now 12.8 because they changed the ratios and they spend of it. Yeah, they don't dare spending of it because there was lot of media around it. This is the money of the depositors. You don't touch it. In fact, everything was the money of the depositors. Okay, and the balance of payment is still deficitary, not 8 billion. I think the latest number between 6 and 7, which means still net out of 7 billion. Okay, during Christmas they told you, hey, we have 100,000 Lebanese that came. They brought $7 billion to the country. True. But they never tell you how much dollar went out of the country. Net, minus 7 billion. Imagine if this Lebanese didn't come during Christmas. Okay, how did it happen? Okay, how did it happen?
Nicolas, sorry to interrupt. We have a question related to this. Leon is asking, where is the gold stock in all this?
Gold is as a central bank. We'll discuss it later because gold should be used smartly. Thank you for the question. Please remind me later on. Okay, it's very important. Okay, how did it happen? Okay, very simple. I'm gonna do a simple schema. Okay, depositors. Okay, these are the numbers updated as of June 2021. Okay, 6 months ago. I don't update numbers anymore because numbers change every day. You just understand the concept. Okay, for example, it's not 105 billion, it's 103 billion today. Okay, whatever. Okay, depositors brought Lebanese pounds and dollars. okay, either from the internal system or from outside Lebanon, and put them at the bank. You know, like in Tom and Jerry, you put money in the bank. But the economy of Lebanon in 2018 was 55 billion. The amount of dollar in 2018 was 155 billion, 160 billion. Now it's 105. So the depositors put 3 times more in the banks as the economy. When the deposit in the bank is 3 times bigger than the economy, the banks cannot deploy this in the economy. Because how the bank gives you interest? Because they take your money, they give loans with it, they take interest on the loan, they take part of the interest, and they give you the rest. This is how it works, in a simple way. In a simple way. So the banks having all this amount, 150, 155, $60 billion with an economy of 55 in 2018, or 2017 or 2016, the only way to deploy it was to lend to the market, commercial loans, yani car loans, mortgages, personal loans, etc., to lend to the state, Eurobonds, okay, and to put the rest as a central bank. They didn't know at that time that you don't have the right to put your money in a single place higher than a certain ratio. Okay, we call it in banking, and I know it because I'm a banker, we call it single borrower exposure. Okay, the banks were exposed to the state and to the central bank above the official and acceptable ratio of 20% of their capital, which means the bank capital is around $21 billion, devaluated a little bit, but I'm at 1,521 billion $. 20% of $20 billion is $4 billion. So maximum, a bank can expose itself to the state, or to the government at $4 billion. They can put $4 billion here and $4 billion here. They put $15 billion here because they bought $15 billion of Eurobond, and $70 billion here in the central bank. They did what we call single borrower exposure. And why did they put it? We would say, if we are economists, they cannot deploy it in the economy. Fine. In that case, they should not take it from the depositors. Okay? They don't put their money at risk in the central bank in the States. And what happened? The States collapsed. They defaulted Eurobond, and the central bank has a loss, as we said, of $55 billion now. Okay? So this is the first mistake of the bank. The second, they did something, maturity mismatch. They took your depositor at 12 months, renewable, and they put it at 10 years with the central bank. So when they did the bank run on 19th of November, you came to the bank and said, I want my money. The bank went to the central bank, give me the money. The central bank said, sorry, you put it at 10 years with me. That's why I give you 10% interest that you give back to your depositor. Okay? So 2 mistakes, and the banks recognize it. Huh? But the other mistake came from the central bank. Where is the Commission de Contrôle des Banques? Why was the risk central de risque des banques? Why did they allow them to do that? Because they wanted all of them to do the financial engineering, to bring some money to the country to cover the deficit of the balance of payment. So all of them are accountable. Come now? And how is that accountability? First, corruption. Second, the state, because the state spent for the last, overspent for the last 20 years, around 60 to $70 billion overspent. Every year, the P&L, موازنة الدولة, was losing the fiscal deficit of $5 billion a year on average, between 3 to 6, on average $4 to $5 billion every year. So every year we need to find money to cover this deficit because they were spending more than when getting revenue, because there was no structure. In fact, there was no budget. There was no closing of account, تسكير حساب. Between 2001 and 2010, ما صار في تسكير حساب, ما صار في budget. How? They were spending like crazy. Then we did it. They created the budget with a deficit. And please, central bank financed. But central bank is responsible. She should not have financed. the CMC, le Code de monnaie et de crédit, قانون النقد والتسليف, it doesn't allow them to finance. It doesn't allow them to subsidize product. It's the responsibility of the Ministry of Economy to subsidize product. It's the responsibility of Ministry of Finance to find structure to finance its government. So they all played the game, wrongly or badly, right or wrong, whatever. There is a mistake, there is a responsibility. Okay. Second, responsible is the BDL, because the BDL created all the structure. The banks are responsible. Then we forgot always the external auditor. Where were the external auditors? Okay. Where? You have the top three in the world. They were covering 70% of the banking sector. They were looking at risk, watch risk for 20 years. Where were they? Okay. And of course, big depositors. You have big depositors who played the game. Some of depositor used to tell them, bring fresh money to the country, I give you 12% interest. They used to take money from the country, put it in Switzerland for 1 month and bring it back as fresh money. Okay, so all of them. In terms of responsibility, and for me, 50% is responsible of the collapse is the state, 25% Banque du Liban, and 5% the banks. In this plus minus 5-10%, this is it. In this responsibility. So when we want to distribute the losses, توزيع الخسائر, this is the way. So the state need to pay, the BDL need to pay, the banks need to pay, not the depositor. Today, what they are doing, you hear, we're going to bring you, we'll give you back your money in Lebanese pound. We call this lirification. It's exactly what happened in Venezuela. They did the pesofication. It destroyed the country for 20 years. Until now, you Google Venezuela, is still in deep red, Venezuela, because when they created the pesofication, okay, it devaluated the money drastically. So it destroyed the economy automatically. Okay, and at that time, the dollar in Venezuela was 40 billion. We have $105 billion. So 2.5 more than what's happening. What is in Venezuela? In Lebanon, you don't have one crisis. You have 5 crises. You have a debt crisis. You have a government deficit crisis. You have a BDL loss crisis. We have a bankruptcy crisis. We have we have balance of payment crisis. So it's a 5 crises. It never happened in the world. In Greece, you had a debt crisis. In Cyprus, a bank crisis. In Venezuela, a devaluation crisis. Not Venezuela, yes. In Argentina, you have more dollar and other debt crisis. But no country has all the crises. That means the central bank is defaulting and the government is defaulting, which is terrible. Okay. Some people will tell you banks can't put money at the central bank. أنا شرعوني مرة على التلفزيون. Yes. The banks can't put money as I said because it's the last recourse in the bank. Okay, but they can put Lebanese pound as much as they want, not dollars. Because there is a problem. The central bank can't print Lebanese pound. They have a printing machine. They don't have printing machine of dollars. They put $70 billion in the central bank from this 105. This is unacceptable. This is accountable. That's why they don't want to do the forensic audit. That's why you remember the banks when there was this Lazar plan. Okay, the banks created another plan and they requested $40 billion of assets from the state. Why 40 billion? Because their losses is around 40 billion. It's not a number like this. Okay, while their capital is 20. So the whole equation played the game for 15 years, 20 years, okay, without counting. Okay, we were over. It was kind of a systemic, no, it's a kind of a Ponzi scheme system. It's not a Ponzi scheme, it's a Ponzi scheme system. It's even worse than a Ponzi scheme because a Ponzi scheme is one pyramid. Here you have a triple pyramid between state, central bank, and banks. And the guy who pays is a depositor at that. What they are doing today, they are saying, okay, I give you your 105 in lira. The easy solution, I print money. Okay, today they have printed 20 times more money, okay, than we used to have 2.5 years ago, because they used to give you 8,000 Lebanese pound against $1 instead of 1.5 1,500 for the $1. So they print seven times more, which multiplier and interest cumulated give you, they printed 20 times more. Or not 20, 15 times more, something like that. Sorry, numbers, I mean, we look at them, okay? And that's why the Lebanese pound devaluated, because amount of money increased, Lebanese pound. So you have, when you have more, we have surplus of product, there is less need of this product. And the dollar that was supporting the Lebanese pound as a central bank also decreased. So the money, Lebanese pound increased the volume. The volume of the foreign currency decreased. Khalas, you devalue your money immediately. Plus the games of the Sarrafin and Bunuks, okay? Roughly 15 to 20% of the price fluctuation is a game. That's why it moved to 27, 30 and it went back to 20. Central bank injected some money, okay? Bad game, okay? So that's what happened. Very simple. There is no free money. No free money. You want to pay, you devaluate. Very simple. Mafi. You devaluate, what you pay worth nothing. That means you kill the purchase power of the depositor. And my friend Talib Saad is here, and Gabi is here as well, listening to us. They can tell you that that the most important element in the economy is the purchase power. At the end, you have to increase and improve the purchase power of the citizen, because and the increase of the purchase power goes into hundreds of layers to improve the economy, the banking system, the financial system, the structure of the economy, the industry, the healthcare, all these things need to be structured well so that the purchase power improve. If today we want to judge our politicians, we have to judge them on the purchase power. We tell them, okay, we elect you today, the purchase power is, let's say, minus 100. If you bring it to plus 10, we'll re-elect you. Otherwise, we will not elect you. So if we want to put a KPI on the politicians, this is the best, the easiest, and the most difficult KPI, in fact. Purchase power, one KPI. I want to improve. That means the guy who has 100,000 lira, with which he can buy one potato bag, with his 100,000 lira, he should be able to pay to buy 1.5 potato bag. The purchase power is not increasing the amount of money only, is increasing the power of the money to buy things. Okay, or it reduces the cost of on the citizen. That means instead of having this $100,000, use half of it to buy a medicine. Okay, you subsidize the medicine, or you produce local medicine in Lebanon, or you reduce the price of medicine by doing les produits dérivés, les produits dérivés des médicaments. He reduces the cost, so he, instead of spending 50, he'll spend 25 to get the medicine. That means he'll get 25 more to spend. So improving the purchase power is a complex equation that has hundreds of layers across the economic system and financial system. And this should be the ultimate target of any government. And when you increase the purchase power, you reduce delinquency, you reduce insecurity, you increase the quality of life of the citizens, and you increase happiness, and people start dreaming. And that's where we want to go. We want the Lebanese to dream again. We want the young people to say, I want to stay in my country to build something. I don't want to go to other countries to study and stay there and find a job to send back money to my country. This is not the right equation. Unfortunately, it is the current equation. We want to dream again. Okay? Ishi su'al?
Yes. So we have a question actually that everyone is asking, like, is there any hope to get our money from the bank again? Like someone is asking, like, saying all his savings, now he's retired and no income. So what's the solution? Like, will we ever get our money on the bank from the banks? Or like, I think everyone has this question in mind.
Okay. In my presentation, I propose a solution for that. but I'm going to answer the question. If we continue like that, let's be realistic, it's very difficult to get back your money from the system because there is no money. So you have to restructure the system and create value again. We are still in the value destruction mode. We are still in the hyperinflation. We have to inflect the curve again to recreate money, okay, to recreate value than money. Okay? So the way we're going, my answer is very difficult. And personally, I will be pessimistic. The problem, nobody is doing anything. إنه كانوا ينزلوا على الشارع هلا لا بدنا نقعد بالبيوت بدنا نقول نعمل ثورة على الواتساب. ثورة ما بتنعمل على الواتساب. بس كنت أنا نزلت على الشارع وكلنا نزلنا على الشارع بس ليش ما عم ننزل بقى؟ لأنه تعب اللبناني تعب. When you are bleeding, you don't have the strength anymore to fight. We are bleeding, and they are tabling on that. I reached the level. I reached to think that all what happened in the Lebanese economy has been planned. يعني ممنهجة بالعربي في كلمة مهمة ممنهجة. Okay, why? Because it's impossible to make so much errors. As I told you, the plane crash had 33 errors. We made hundreds of errors, and we're still making. Not even that, we don't want to correct. يا أخي capital control outside capital control law. Cyprus did it overnight, 24 hours. They put the capital control. 2 years and a half, no capital control law. And when they put a law, they try to protect this side or put something in it. لا, capital control law مش صعبة. Let's take the Cyprus one, install it, improve it later if you want, but stop it, because with the capital control, we'll lock the monetary mass in Lebanon in order to be able to start working on a plan. As long as we are bleeding, we don't know if we get money and the money went out, we cannot do a plan. As long as we have many prices for the currency, you cannot build an economy. You've never seen an economy with multi prices. 1005 3 9 8000 12000 22000 منصة. Now الدولار الجمركي. Crazy, impossible. They are still tactical. They are not strategical. They are not putting a plan. كل تعميم مصرف لبنان، okay، لهلا من عام 1961 كانوا تضخمية. They were inflationary tactical. Where is the monetary policy? Where is the fiscal policy from the government? Where is the bank restructuring system? Why didn't they start? Because they want to reduce the deposit rate from 160 billion in 2018 to 105 to 70 maybe. Yani they are solving the problem on the back of the depositor. And this is unacceptable. Unless we accept it. Because for your knowledge, okay, everybody was talking about haircut. You cannot do a haircut in Lebanon. Article 15 of the Constitution forbid you to do a haircut. Okay? Pamela عم تضحك. Okay? Article 17, as Pamela knows it, I'm going to tell you what is it. It says, if the state wants to take your asset, whatever it is, it can do it only on exceptional cases, and it has to compensate you with something else. So your money needs to be compensated. So what they have done, they created a system where you auto-haircut yourself. You don't have money, you are not working anymore, so you spend your money from your bank, your value, your capital is decreasing, and you are larificating it, okay? So you're auto-haircutting yourself. Unfortunately, you can't do something else. You need money, you need to live. And the deposit went down from 160 billion to 105 million. Most of it, half of it, is auto-haircut. Half of it, they settled the loan on the lands. Okay? هيدا اللي عم بيعملوه. عم بيخففوا loss distribution on their back. And the latest شو اسمه speech of the Prime Minister is worrying. He's telling us, I'm going to give you money, the small amount, I'm going to give you dollars. بيطلعوا 5-3 مليار دولار small depositor, which represent 70% of the depositor. بس الباقي اللي عنده 300,000 و500,000 ومليون واكثر من مليون دولار، انه هو لا، هو بيعطيهم ليره وبيقول له I will give you back this money on 10 years, okay, and in 20 years I will give you everything in 20 years. He forgot to tell you that in 20 years the inflation in Lebanon makes your money worth nothing. And before that, the value of your money worth nothing because you would have printed money, so your purchase power was nothing. Okay? عم بيضحكوا علينا. That's time to wake up, to fight back. We want to dream again. Okay.
Nicolas, so we still have 20 minutes and lots of people are asking about the next steps and the hope. Like we cannot get enough of this talk, but the time is running and like a lot of
ما رح فوت بهول الديتايات. انا حفرجيكم سلايدات على السريع اقول لكم شو هن.
Okay. يعني بس if we can talk about like what can we do, how bad it is, and how to get out of this, like, you know, what strategies can we follow as Lebanese?
Roadmap, okay, of 10 points that I set up. Okay, I have a full document of it of 7-8 pages. My friend Giorgio is on this call and he knows about it, and my friends Talib and Gabi as well, because we are gathering Talib, Gabi, and hopefully Giorgio around an association of economists to fight back the system, and we will launch it soon, and it's a good opportunity to talk about it one day. So what is the plan? Okay, I'm not going to go into the finance system. All the red or the X's are the problems, okay, at every type in the equation, because the equation is three-parted: central bank, banks, state. Okay, you have problems everywhere, big problems. Okay, you have solutions. We can find solutions. Okay, but even if you solve problems, the green lines, okay, still problems still there. The deposits are problems. So many problems. Okay, what I'm gonna tell you is the roadmap. We're gonna spend time on this roadmap because it's very important to show that there is a roadmap and that the state is not doing, the government is not doing the right thing today. Roadmap in 10 points. Okay, what should we do? It's not easy. If it would have been easy, it would have been done. Okay, it's not easy. It's not tactical. It's strategical because it addressed 60% of the problem. 360. Okay, today when you look at the muezane, okay, muezane, no, come on, they never talked about electricity of Lebanon, the biggest problem, leakage and bleeding of the country. So they want to create a new asar sarf where the objective is to unify the exchange rate. They want to give the authority to the finance minister to decide on taxes. No, come on, Article 82 of the Constitution. Where are we? Where are we going? Okay. What is this stupidity? It's anti-constitutional, okay? So they are breaching. And the most important, you cannot create a budget before having a safety plan. يعني ما بيخلقوا البادجت إذا ما في خطة تعافي, because you build the budget on the salvation plan. You don't do the opposite, because when the budget is approved and voted, we cannot change it anymore. And the objective is to create the plan to save the country, then put a budget on it. They are doing the opposite because they don't want to do it. Very simple. And I reached this conclusion. Okay. First thing to do, okay, put a capital control law. Okay, the capital control, we're going to spend the time of the presentation on this slide. Capital control law. ليش؟ لأن the capital control law, it will lock the monetary mass in the country and help set a plan to stabilize the exchange rate. Okay, then it's one of the first requirements of the IMF. We'll see later on why do we need the IMF. We couldn't have worked without the IMF with the $17 billion that the central bank had, and they threw it into the fire. But now we don't have it anymore, so we need the IMF. Okay. And the capital control tells you if the IMF gives you money, at least this money stays in the country, nobody will transfer it out and never pay the IMF again. Okay, so it's important to put a capital control law, even for 1 year or 1.5 years, to stabilize the system. Nothing is moving anymore. It's fixed. I can put an injection, save the patient, then let it go. Okay. Second, so this is important to do. This is something that the parliament needs to put in place immediately, even if the banks are not happy, even if the central bank is not happy. Okay, monetary reform. Second reform that needs to be done quickly. Unify the exchange rate. An economy cannot run with 5-6 exchange rate of which two are local exchanges, lira and bira. It's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous, it's impossible. Second, address the exchange rate. We cannot let the exchange rate slipping like that. Okay, there are many ways to do it, many ways. Nicole is here, she can discuss with me so many ways. Okay, you can, and I support the currency board, but the less we have money in the central bank, the more difficult we can put the currency board, and the currency board doesn't work properly with the law, capital control law, but we can adjust them because in some countries it worked. Okay, you can put crawling peg. There are many ways. We have to set a plan to address the exchange rate fluctuation. Okay, so monetary reforms, yani unifies the exchange rate, address the exchange rate. This should be done mainly by the central bank. Okay, this is central bank problem. Capital control is the parliament with the help of the Ministry of Finance or the central bank, but the parliament need to vote it. This is central bank. Second, state, the role of the state. They have to stop losses. We have to stop the bleeding. How? What is the bleeding today? Okay, the bleeding first is EDL, electricity of Lebanon. We are losing every year $1.5 billion from EDL. Okay, over 30 years, this is $35 billion. In $35 billion, you could have built 30 factory that produce electricity. It's ridiculous. We could have exported electricity to the world, to Africa, to the Middle East, but no, we buy oil and fuel at high price. We don't even hedge it. Ridiculous, because there is commission, retro commission, wrong e-procurement, crap. Okay, government staff.
Actually, Jacques asked a question 3 times, so I'm going to ask it now. How much are we spending, is the government spending on fuel?
On fuel, ما عندي number, بس يمكن between $1 to $2 billion, something like that, mainly. And this is off the budget. ما عندي number exactly. بعرف انه deficit تبع ال ODL، بس بعرف انه كان يكلف لبنان سنترال بانك تقريبا 4 ل 5 مليار بالسنه. سنترال بانك 4 مليار، 3 ل 4 مليار بالسنه roughly. But sorry, I don't have this number. Okay, whatever it is, it should be hedged. In other countries, they have banks that work on hedging commodities and trading. Okay, they should hedge the wheat, they should have the farine, الطحين, they should hedge all these first commodities. They should do deals with medicine, with Bayer and other. They should produce medicine locally. Nothing is done. بس هيك يلا spend. Anyway, government staff is huge. Okay, and with سلسلة الراتب والرواتب, as you heard about it, it was wrongly calculated, so it costs the country huge money, and now they want to increase the government staff again. Haram أكيد, but it's money. They have to print money. Okay, and you will see, as soon as they pay, the lira will devaluate again. Okay, all the central bank need to inject $100 million the way they did 2 weeks ago to get back the government in place. Okay, كلها politics. Okay, and we have the نفعل ديوان المحاسبة كمان هو كله بالجرور الفايلز. Okay, so stop bleeding. So this is to be done by the state. Okay, address the deficit. It's not difficult. نحطوا الهيئة الناظمة طلبها IMF. والتليكوم, هلا we have another problem with telecom. Telecom was the chick that used to give the golden egg. هلا it's almost zero, and they are starting to getting into deficit. So there is no income of $600 million per year from the telecom. Terrible. BDL to regularize the subsidies, fuel and commodities. This is done. Thank you, BDL. But they did it because they didn't have money anymore. They didn't do it because they need to do it. Okay, because it was politically commanditated behind it. They couldn't afford stopping this at the price of having people in the streets and losing elections and having problems for political parties with their partisans. Set target for social aid. You cannot help like this. Address the BDL-CD monthly losses. This is stop loss that's done at the BDL level. Today, the banks put their money at 10 years with the central bank. The central bank gives them 10%. From where they are getting this 10%? They don't have money. So they are creating losses. So this famous loss here, Heidi, sorry, هذه ال 55 مليار بالبنك المركزي عم تكبر، لازم نوقفها. الديفيسيت بالجفرمنت عم تكبر، مش عم توقف، لازم نصغرها. اوكي. So all this need to be addressed. So the plan need to address a structural reform at the level of the state as required by the IMF. Fourth point. وكلهم ما نايمين هون. It's not something like you do like this with a decision or a law. No, you need a plan that they are the same puzzle. The puzzle is there. You have to put the puzzle together. Every reform needs to coordinate with the other reform. They should not sleep 1 minute to do it. Day and night for 7 hours, 7 days, 7 for the last year, they should work instead of going on holidays. Okay? Fiscal reforms. Through the golden rule, for example, okay, spend only from tariffs and tax collection. They cannot spend from something else. Borrow only for projects that generate return in the future. Improve tax collection from private borders and set the e-government structure. Okay, it's important. Improve tax collection. They should not increase taxes. They should improve tax collection. Big difference. Your new budget is to increase KAS. Ya خيي لا improve tax collection. Okay. الجباية بالعكس, create tax shield, reduce taxes for foreign direct investors, set a wealth tax. There are people in Lebanon that are very wealthy, they never pay tax لأنه عندنا secret banking. بسويسرا بيدفعوك 1 to 5%. It's huge money. Okay. لازم نخلق one ID tax, يعني everything should be linked to your ID so you cannot escape from it. Okay, so these are the fiscal reforms. Fifth, create the internal trust. How to create the internal trust? The internal trust comes between the citizen, the depositor, and the financial system. We need to create trust in the financial system. First thing to do, صاروا سنتين ما عملوها، بعد ما عملوها وبعرف امتى رح يعملوها. Restructuring the bank system. Create something اسمه good bank and bad bank. Initiate and finalize the forensic audit, not only in the central bank, but in the banks as well and in the Ministry of Finance. لأنه هو المثلث الذهبي, the golden triangle between central bank, banks, and Ministry of Finance. That's why the money goes. بعدين, increase capital of restructured bank through FDIs. You cannot increase capital of banks through bail-in. سمعتوا بالbail-in. شو الbail-in؟ يعني بدل ما يردوا لكم مصرياتكم, instead of banks giving back your money because they don't have it, they give you participation in their capital. Okay? Okay, they wash it. They're worth nothing and they give you nothing, in fact, and they are still insolvent because what they are taking from you is nothing, but they don't owe you anything anymore. Okay, this does not bring the trust in the financial system. In external fresh money to be injected. Example, BNP Paribas need to inject money in a bank in Lebanon. Bank Al-Ahli or FAB in Emirates need to inject money in Lebanon to take part of the capital. But ما بدهم لأنه بعدهم مسكينة شو اسمه مثل شو اسمه الفاميليز ما بدهم يتخلوا عن البنوك. أخي ما فيك, ما بيسوى شيء البنك, مفلس البنك. لو سنترال بانك بتبص على الزر بتقول لك خلاص سكر البنك. بالعكس, you will get less shares, but at least your shares has a value. Anyway, this is a mindset. So this need to be initiated. And the question on the gold. Anna, for me, you should not use the gold to offset a loss. First, the gold has nothing to do with the deposit. It's two balance sheet items. Two balance sheet. واحد على gold, واحد deposit. Okay, from financial institutions. ما فيك تخلطون, ما بينخلطوا, ولا ما بحطوهم بزيت السطر. ما بينخلطوا. You cannot offset one the other. You can with a law, but you should not. The gold is not here to offset a loss. The gold is the only remaining asset that is trusted globally, worldwide, to create trust back in this country. If it's used, it is used to create value only, not to be thrown or burned in a chimney. Okay? عندي loss بستعمل الذهب. يا أخي ما بكفي حتى. You have in the system $100 million of loan. Your goal is 17 billion. Even if you use it, it's not enough. So you should not use it. You should restructure the system, do it right. Okay, so the goal, part of the goal, can be injected by the central bank in the capital of the banks to create trust. That means the banks can be owned by the central bank, not by foreign direct investor and by the current or new investor, private investor or funds that wants to, and create a new banking system which is smaller but stronger. Okay, we had $55 billion economy, we had 55 banks. Now we have $18 billion economy, we need 10 banks or 12 banks. Okay, so less banks but stronger banks, smaller banks at the size of the economy. نرجع لحجمنا مثل ما بيقولوا بالعربي. بعدين banking reforms. تعرفوا انه في عندنا هيدي transfer back the CDs to depositor. The banks, this is something more complex. رح نمضي عليه دقيقة. البانكس حاطين مصرياتهم بالسنترال بانك. The banks has put their money in the central bank as with $70 billion, of which 30 billion are called CDs. This is the money of the depositors that they put there. They should release it because CDs are bleeding the banks, the central banks. So you do win-win equation. You stop the bleeding of the central bank and you give back the money to the depositor. Okay. في عندها plan عندي شيء نهار إذا حدا عايزه نعطيه في plan طويل عريض. And reduce interest rates on SMEs. بدنا نرجع نمشي الايكونومي مظبوط. We have to reduce the loans for the small and medium enterprises so they can take back loans and finance their working capital requirement to rebuild the economy. So this is a very important rule and law to be set between banks. اليوم ما بدينوا، لا لازم تدين لما when new money is injected in the capital, when you have trust again in the banks. أنا you have $10 billion in the houses, between $8 to $10 billion. مش أنا قلتها حكي مصرف لبنان على التلفزيون. 10 مليار لازم نردهم على البنك، أخي شقفة منهم على البنك. إذا ردينا 3 to 4 billion to the bank is تقريبا 20% of the GDP. Okay, so this 4 billion can recreate the economy. The banks can use them to re-give loans, and the loans rerun the companies, and the companies recruit back, and the recruitee can have a salary, and salary they can spend money, and when they spend money, they run the economy again, and they improve the purchase power, etc., etc. So we need to get this part of this money in the houses back to the banking system. That's why we need to create the internal trust through recapitalizing the banks with external banks or external investor that have strong governance. What is the problem of the bank today? Governance. The CEO is the chairman. Khalas, he's a dictator. He can do anything in the bank. The politicians are part of the shareholders. Wrong. A politician should not get more than 1% in a bank. Okay, so conflict of interest. Okay, at the central bank, شو البروبلم? Very simple. The capital market authority and the central bank have the same boss. ما معقول. There should be a Chinese wall in the whole world. You have a Chinese wall because the markets and the central bank. At the same time, the Commission de Contrôle des Banques is an employee of the central bank. Impossible. The Commission de Contrôle des Banques should be an independent authority. لو عندنا اياهم كلهم هول ما كان صار البروبلم. انا بسوي لكم اياهم. صار في كونفليكت انتري. في عالم لعبت اللعبه في انك خافت تخسر شغلك. Okay? External trust. We have to build external trust. This is a plan. I'm giving you a plan. What needs to be done? أول شيء, execute the 8 IMF required reform. The internal trust is people and banking system. External trust is foreign direct investor with the Lebanese economy. If the IMF sign with the Lebanese economy, that means the IMF trust what's going to happen or believe in a future plan that give trust to external investors to come and invest in Lebanon. So we need to build the internal trust, the external trust. 2 years ago, we didn't need the IMF. They were talking about it, but we didn't need it. We had $17 billion in central bank. Now we don't have it anymore. في accountability. محاسبة اللي بدكم اياه. لا مش عم نحكي نحن politics ولا law ولا محاسبة. عم نحكي economy. But we have to call a cat a cat. Okay. Initiate the IMF negotiation for internal liquidity needs. اليوم البلد, the country needs liquidity in order to rebuild, to reshape the balance of payment. Okay. By the way, the IMF gave us, you remember, $1.2 billion a month ago. This one SDR, special drawing rights. Okay. Only $1.2 billion كان راح يستعملوها البطاقة التمويلية. ممنوع. It's wrong. It's forbidden. It's $1.2 billion. It's a right. There is no condition for it. like the loan that we are expecting from the IMF, the 5 billion, is something right for us because we subscribe to the IMF. So there is no condition to get it, but there is a preference to use it. Okay, بيقول لك you cannot use it any يعني كيف ما بدكم. لا ما عايزهم بطاقة تمويلية، لا بطاقة أخي، لا تسمعيهم كلهم ديبيوتيز عم بيحكوا هيك، أخي لا، قروا ما حدا بيقرا بلبنان، قروا الكونديشنز. بيقول لك سنترال بانك you can, it's preferable to use it for something to create value, likewise restructuring the balance of payment. Example, you subsidize SMEs to restructure their product, to move them from local product to export product. Maybe they have to buy a machine, may have to produce raw material locally. All this should be within a plan that could be financed with this money. When you export, you bring fresh money to the country, you create value automatically. You reduce your deficit in the balance of payment. كله بده يفكروا. Get سادر project. خلاص بقى سادر صار سادر. ليش ما اعطونا سادر؟ لانه ما قبلنا نحط اوديت عليه سادر. انه من الاخر بنقولها. Because we spent Paris 1, Paris 2, and the government who gave us the money didn't check neither, so they are accountable as well. Okay? هيدي لوز لوز بسموها، ما حدا عم يفتح الباب، ما عم باندورا بوكس. بس سادر كمان ما اعطونا لانه نحن رفضنا نحط اوديت عليه. So this is the external trust. Okay, when you get said the foreign direct investment, when you sign with the IMF, people are saying Lebanon is transforming. There is new plan and new government, new. There is a trust. IMF putting money. It brings back the investor from everywhere because the Lebanese is intelligent, as I told you. We can make the difference. It's us that can make a difference in a way or another. We can be great. We can be bad. Okay, so let's be great for once. Otherwise, our country will disappear. Very important point. We have to solve 360. Okay, debt. في عندنا debt بلبنان. Okay, we have, as we said, هون عم نجرب نحلهم وحده وحده، ما عم نقول بدي اعمل tactical action. $100 billion of debt. Okay, وهيدي صعبه. Okay, more than 100, يمكن 105, 110. ما عاد احسب انا. Okay, we have to know that if we solve this plan 10 point, if we manage to achieve 50% of every task, we save the country. ما عم نقول 100%. Because we can live with problems, but we cannot live with hell. Okay? D'accord? So we have two problems in Lebanon. Our debt is 100 million, of which 80% is internal. Okay? And of the total debt, 70% is in Lebanese lira and 30% is in dollar. For the Lebanese lira, okay, the state is paying every year between 7 to 10% interest rate on this debt. Okay, this is bleeding. We are stop loss and hard stop loss. We have to do something called debt restructuring of the Lebanese lira. يعني we swap, this technical word, شو يعني swap؟ يعني we take this debt and we give another debt. Okay, نحفظ حق الكريديتور. Okay, but instead of paying this debt 10% over 10 years, we pay it 1% over 25 years. Okay, this 1% reduces the bleeding. And instead of paying 10% interest, we pay 1%. And instead of paying of 10 years, we pay 25 years. We expect in 25 years that the economy will get in a shape again in order to pay back the loan and cover the 1%. This is every country in the world. Okay, this is a very important step. Rescheduling and restructuring of the treasury bills. The treasury bills is a debt in Lebanese pound. Okay. ثاني نقطة، أكبر debt، بس هذه الديت احنا قلنا 100 في 60 مليار ليرة لبنانية، 60 billion of treasury bills. The biggest part of it is between هيك تشوفوها هيك okay, $16 billion of T-bills. The biggest part is between the central bank and the state. Okay, we have to wipe it out. Why? If we wipe it out, why it's important? Because we reduce the debt to GDP ratio. If the debt reduce, the GDP reduce, بينزل ratio. So بدنا wipe it out. How do we wipe it out? We have to use the asset of the states. There are many ways of using the assets of the states. Okay, طلعوا بفكرة انه اول شيء بناخذ الاسد نعطيهم للمودعين. اخي لا، لان الاسد مش للمودعين، للشعب اللبناني كله. اوكي. وبما انه 2% of the مودعين represent 50% of the deposit, you will have the asset of the states in the hand of the politicians again. Wrong. Then second plan is to give the asset to the banks. لا اخي، لا 55 banks have to get the asset of the states. They will never give it back to the depositor, by the way. Okay, what we need to do is to keep the assets of the states within the state. The state has huge assets. There was a plan from Imf recently that evaluated assets at 7 billion. This is actual value. We cannot evaluate state at assets actual value. You evaluate state at 10 years. Okay, you create value in the state, like what Carlos Hassan said, to create value in the state, and you evaluate at $100 billion. And this is the right evaluation. Okay, so you take part of this, you create a fund, okay, and you tell the central bank, I owe you $50 billion of treasury bill, okay, I'm gonna create a fund and swap it. Very simple, very simple, and the smartest solution ever to use the state assets. مثل كأنه أنتوا عندكم loan مع البنك, you have a loan with the bank, and you tell the bank, I cannot pay you. The bank will tell you, I'll take your house, and we settle. The same. There is a loan between the state and the central bank. The state give the assets to the central bank with conditions and the central bank wipe out the loan overnight by signing a contract. Smart. Signing a contract, the balance sheet of the states and the central bank are clean again. The only condition of the state is that in 10 years, if I have money, I have to buy back my assets. Like this, the asset doesn't go anywhere. It's still between a public institution, which is a central bank, a semi-private, independent, and the state. Already, the central bank has a casino in Middle East. They can have something else, and this fund can be used to reimburse back the deposit of the depositors. They can create bonds on it. There is full solution around it, but it's the smartest and simplest solution ever to do. Use the state assets re-evaluated with buyback options over 10 years, and the return from this asset to pay back the states and the depositors, because one of the conditions of the bank is to improve the state assets, like they did with Middle East and casino. The only assets in the state that are running well, between bracket, okay, are the Middle East and the casino, between bracket, okay, better than any other state institution asset.
Nicolas, I have a question from Atif. He's saying that the World Bank did a new report yesterday about a set of new reforms. I don't know if you got to see it.
Yes, I saw it. The reforms are the same, are not new. Okay, maybe there is one new. Okay, all what the IMF is doing is that please do these reforms. Okay, they have been. I was in the last two meetings with the IMF personally. In 2020, okay, and the IMF was almost unhappy, very unhappy from everybody officially, on the screen. ما عملوا شيء بعدهم هلا ما عملوا شيء هلا they were even accusing, they are saying that politicians are responsible. I don't know if you read the report, but it's the same conditions. عاطف لحظه بس لخلص ولا انه خلص الوقت بعدين نفتح سؤالات قد ما بدكم. Okay, so create a national wealth fund. هذا الويلث فند بيساعدك لتعمل settlement للتريجري bills ولا to manage the state assets and fiscal revenue, to cover the social security problem, and to create return to capitals and pay back depositors. So 7 and 8 are very close to each other. Using the state assets to a sovereign fund, you need independent, very strong, مثلا BlackRock, BJ, the most known asset manager and fund manager in the world. BJ بيعمل لك restructuring. It's a huge fund, $50 billion or $30 billion. It's a huge fund. بيعمل لك restructuring of the asset, بيعمل لهم return, بيعمل عليهم bonds. We have to be creative to solve the problem. We cannot sleep. And it's feasible because it was done somewhere else. آخر شيء نمرة 9 بدنا نرد حلو create value بس بدنا نرد المصريات انسرقوا. We have to create a plan like the Lavajato plan or France HSBC settlement approach. ما بنرفع دعوة لنرد الأموال المنهوبة. لأنه أول شيء we have to prove إنه نهبت, which is very difficult in a free economy and in a secret banking system. Okay, very difficult. And when it happened in other country ما ردوا شيء، ردوا 5-10% barely covered the lawyer cost. Okay, نعمل settlement مثل بالبرازيل لافاجاتول يعني مان بروب. Okay. وبالاش اس بي سي سكاندل، تعرفوا انه من زمان you know that what happened the SBC France scandal, some names leaked from HSBC of French people or French national people, nationality who has nationality, people who has French nationality that escaped from the French fiscality to put their money in Switzerland. Then the French government has all the names. They call one by one, guy, I know that you has escaped $2 million. You owe the French government $500,000. If you pay 300, we forget it and you are clean. This is what they done. And they cleared the problem and they collected a lot of money. هم اللبنان كلهم بيخافوا على سمعتهم. Time to do it. Okay? بس مين بيسترجي؟ Anyway, create a return to offset central bank losses payback deposit. هيدي نحكي فيها بعدين. This, once we do all this, we know exactly how much loss we have. We have to distribute fairly across state BDL and banks and not by verification of the depositor. Okay, then once we do all this in parallel, okay, and this is what Nicole would like, okay, we set a plan to stop the deficit of the balance of payment, stop the fiscal deficit, create a plan to grow GDP, and most importantly, as we say, enforce the rule of law. These are the 10 main points to be done to solve the Lebanese problem and reimburse, let's say, a big part of the depositors, that's 40% of depositor money, and the rest through a plan that doesn't destroy value or purchase power on the depositor over 10 or 15 years. هيدا هو البلان. هلا إذا بدكم نفوت بالديتاي في عنا هون what are the initiatives to be done ما رح فوت فيها هلا.
I think we're gonna do another session with you, Nicolas, because it's super interesting and everyone wants to hear more. So
payment, how this is important to correct. It's not difficult. You can go into so many details, but if you do 5-6 initiatives, the balance in payment can start inverting to a growth mode. Okay, سؤالات.
Okay, so I will allow like 5 minutes for the questions because we're running out of time. Best, I would like also to remind you again to join our upcoming sessions and to check our also virtual art exhibition. So our next session will be next Tuesday, and you can book your slot for free. And we're gonna have a lot of interesting speakers coming up this year. So stay tuned. We have 2 sessions every month. So this is the next talk next Tuesday about big data, transparency, and access to information. So I have Atif is raising his hand since a while. Let's take the question of Atif, and then we, everyone is claiming another session with you, actually, Nicolas, so we're gonna do that.
Peter, do it. Yalla, Muhammad, yalla, go ahead. Yalla, question.
Yeah, let's take Atif first, and then we do it.
Atif.
Okay, my question is the World Bank report of yesterday addressed your last 4 points of repatriating and facilitating the debt restructure as well as all the other issues you talked about. My question is, are we at all near to the implementation of a national wealth fund? Are we at all focused on somehow disrupting the losses? According to yesterday's World Bank release, we have new directives that the IMF can follow in bailing us out. How can you comment on that, please?
Very quickly, because we have to leave the others as well. The IMF plan didn't change much since last year and since previous year. Okay, they added a few. They are maybe a little bit more flexible on some other things. Okay, but very simple. If you want to do a restructuring, you need a law from the parliament, and they are not ready. So, for my opinion, before the new election, nothing will happen seriously. Okay, they are still talking. They are even building a budget before building a plan, which is an aberration. Okay, so I'm not very optimistic. I'm happy that the IMF is back because I think يعني وجعوا قلبهم علينا. Okay, أكثر من غير شيء. Okay, so I'm happy that they have a will again to negotiate, because last year they stopped negotiation with us. Will this happen quickly? To strike a deal with the IMF, it's not between 4 to 6 months minimum. Okay, when نكون صرنا بعد 6 months. Okay, so they really need to abide immediately, today. خلاص, stop tergiversation. Do it. Either take responsibility and accountability and let the history of this country know the name of everyone who didn't do anything. شو كان سؤالك مسيو إدريس؟ سوري عاطف.
My main focus is that World Bank seemed in their report of yesterday willing to finance 20-year bailout solution. If you
they were willing to do it before. If you don't do the restructuring, why would they do it if you still have a deficit of $5 billion?
Because we don't have a plan. Until this moment, we don't have a plan, and the World Bank has a plan for us.
Yeah, Atif. You have to know what's the IMF. IMF is here to give you money, but not for free. Very little interest, sometimes no interest, but they want their money back. So if they don't have the guarantee to get their money back, the will can be great, but you will never get the money. Manam Satil, they built out so many countries. They are expert in that. They know how to do it. It will hurt the citizen. They know how to do it, but they might solve it. The problem عندنا كتير معقد. It's five crises, not one crisis. They will not. The will is beautiful. I'm very happy they are back. They even rented some offices in downtown. They have released a report today accusing and making responsible the politicians. Beautiful. وبعدين بدك تغيير. I don't believe it. I was in the last negotiation. كنت موجود على الطاولة. وقصة الفورين sovereign fund. You asked me if this will come into reality one day. This is the only way. And between the state and the central bank, the proposal the solution I'm proposing, sorry, ما بقول إنه أنا بس I am proposing it, is the only way to wipe it out. Okay, كل other utilization of the state assets will lose the state asset. كل other utilization of gold rather than financial structuring the bank or creating project and value or taking loans against project to create structure in Lebanon, withdraw the gold from the window. ما فيك تستعمل asset to offset asset. تستعمل asset لتخلق value. بس.
Thank you.
Nicole, you have yes.
Yes, hi.
How are you,
Nicolas, I have a question. Actually, it's controversial, but first of all, let me agree with you that institutions are key. And you have insisted on the rule of law. I have worked a lot on institutions and on governments, and there are like 6 governance indicators, and it seems like political stability comes even before the rule of law. My question is, you are saying that our case is unique, and we need the IMF. What my question is that the IMF, if you want, the interest of the IMF is to lend us money.
And to get
their interest, it's their interest to lend us money, right?
Okay, and
are they aware that our politicians are lying on their behalf and saying that the IMF wants us to increase, for example, the revenues in the budget, increase the taxes? What is this IMF plan, which is built on increasing taxes and getting us into a depression, even more and more? Are the IMF aware of that? Are the IMF aware of our politicians lying to them in each and every reform they're asking for?
Okay, should I answer?
Yes, please.
أول شيء thank you for your question. Nicole is economic teacher at the USG. She's my colleague. لأنه بنعلم سوا. أنا بعلم financial engineering ونيكول بتعلم economy. So I'm pleased she's here and honored in fact to have her here. It's يعني تحياتنا نيكول. أنا I think the IMF knows everything. Okay. It's not the first time that they finance a country. And when they finance countries are the toughest country and the most broken country ever. They don't finance good countries. So they are aware and they are used to politicians. Maybe we are the worst in class. No, otherwise they would have financed it earlier. أنا كنت أعمل لك نيكول كنت على الطاولة شفتهم كنت على السكرين كان في البنك المركزي كان في وزير المالية كنت على الطاولة قاعد. اوكي هلا فيني احكي بعد سنه لانه اول ما كان فينا نحكي بس لا منهم سطيل. They are not stupid. They know what they are doing. They set a plan and the plan will hurt. You're right. This will be on the price of hurting the citizen. They require to increase taxes. But first you need to collect taxes. Okay?
Exactly.
So but هن مش شغلتهم collect taxes. انتبه هن بيقول لك انا بدي conditions. هلا you increase taxes, you don't collect it, it doesn't meet the budget that they are set. It's the problem of the country. Okay, they know about it. انتبه because they know about electricity, they know about so many things. Maybe a year and a half ago 2 years بعدهم كانوا فايتين باللعبه بالمغمغه. هلا صاروا يعرفوا شو عم بيصير. ضحكوا عليهم لكن ضحكوا على الIMF.
بعرف ما مشان هيك عم اقول انه مش عم يضحكوا عم يضحكوا على الناس. عم يضحكوا علينا.
لا مرحله على الIMF كمان عم بدينوا مصاري. دونك البلد بزول ديبوندون كمان. بنعرف شو كيف يعملوا الIMF. يعني it's food in the country. It's يعني عايز الIMF بس الIMF بس يفوت خلص صرت سليف للIMF. لكن شو صار بكل بلدان العالم. اوكي ولا 15 سنه ما بيظهروا. ما حدا بيظهر فات منا. بتضلك الان مع الIMF 20 سنه 25 سنه بس بالقليله اوفر تايم تتحسن شوي. بس
of course we will have confidence. But in your opinion, if we stop trafficking, tax evasion, we get out all the employees that are doing nothing in the government. We do public-private partnerships. Do we need the IMF?
الحمد لله الحمد لله تمام.
انا بفضل
منيح ومشتاقين.
انا بفضل الBOT على PPP بس it's another discussion.
It's the same thing. BOT is a type of PPP بس إنه whatever. But do we need them? Do we need this only 4 billion? يعني they are يعني
we didn't need them. So why the central bank spent 17 billion when you have 17 billion? Now you are asking for 5. Why?
Yeah, exactly.
عم اقول لك دونك في accountability في pressure politics في عالم بدك تعمل هالشغل. ما كان لازم تقبل. ما فينا نقول اوكي I'm a central bank, I have an independent structure, hybrid independent functionally, but my capital is from the state, so I'm independent. وبعدين نعمل شغل الدولة. central bank ما كان لازم تعمل finance من الايكونومي.
لا بس في article 91 in the code of money and credit that lets the central bank do it.
لا punctually. sorry رجع قريب. punctually for 1 year.
punctually بحالات استثنائية.
punctually.
ما حدا بيعرف شنو هي الحالات الاستثنائية.
punctually ما فيها يعملوا هيك.
Our problem. اوكي بس اوكي.
لا على الدين ايه بس على السبسيديز ما شغلتها ولا محل مكتوب بالCMC. subsidies Ministry of Economy وسوشيال افير. شو خص السنترال بانك؟ اذا ما عندهم مصاري شغلتهم مشكلتهم بيتدينوا. ما الدوله دغري بتمول المستوردين. شو خص؟
Nicolas, we are really running out of time, so let's just
economy minister والبانكينج والامبورت. شو الحكي هيدا؟ كريزي. اعطينا بعد شويه وقت رندا.
Okay. I'll give you 5 more minutes because we're really running out of time. But I would like just to say a quick hello to the Konrad Adenauer team who's joining. Like Christina is joining from Germany, Malte is joining from Tunis, Michael who's the representative director of Lebanon. He's joining as well. So everyone is here to listen to you, Nicolas, and thank you for this very interesting talk. Before we continue, I just would like to remind everyone to subscribe to our next talk with Asad Zabian next Tuesday about big data, transparency, and access to information, and to check our exhibition, artsandpolitics.me. So we have already launched Lebanon, Jordan, Tunis, and Syria and Iraq, and soon also Tunis and other countries are coming in the pipeline. So just a quick okay, so we have Saeed who raised his hand, so we're gonna make it quick. We will allow only 5 more minutes. So Saeed, would you like to ask a question?
Saeed, go ahead. أول شيء اشتقنا سعيد.
أهلا يعطيك العافية على هالمداخلة المميزة. بس أنا بدي أسأل سؤال، هل باعتقادك أنه فقط هو الفساد والزبائنية الموجودة في الدولة هي السبب الوحيد فقط لهالأزمة، أم هنالك أسباب خارجية أخرى أدت بسبب التدخلات اللي عم نسمع عنها وما إلى هنالك، هي كذلك ساهمت بهالموضوع؟
Okay. نحن we lost our money, we destroyed the financial system. This was a problem between the state, the central bank, and the banks. There was a conflict of interest, there was corruption, there was wrong management, there was no law. I continue the pyramid, no law, and at the top we have a political and problem in Lebanon. Okay, this political problem in Lebanon created the food problem because nobody there, and you know what I mean, Saeed. Okay, nobody dares to encounter this problem. Everybody accepted the game, played the game, and take corruption against being existing in this country as an out of law political party that has power more than the state today. So time to become all Lebanese again. We're gonna lose this country. There will be no Lebanon and no Lebanese anymore. Did I answer your question, Saeed?
That's what we don't want. Thank you so much.
وليد يلا بعدين دومت.
We have Raja first, so let's just Raja if you want. Okay.
Nicolas, my dear friend, every time I listen to you, I think we have the solution, and I've been listening to you from the beginning. It's getting better all the time, and I never fail to agree with everything you're saying. The problem is we have a failed governance system before having a failed financial system. The problem is we don't have leadership. The problem is we don't have a system that knows how to take the decisions you are suggesting, which are all correct and bang on. So how do we approach a financial solution when we don't have the right management on top? I'm not going to get into politics, but how do we begin solving these problems and talking to the IMF when we really don't have leadership? How do you see that happening?
I said something before that, nothing will happen before the election. So changing the country is in our hand. And my friend Jacques Demosician on this call will more than agree with me. It's time to go and vote right. Okay? خلاص بقى. اوكي وهلا مع برايم مينستر حريري انسحب من البوليتيكال فتح المجال لاشياء جديده تصير. اوكي كانت صعبه هلا صارت اهين. اوكي دونك في نيو فيسز رح يجوا. hopefully they will do the right thing. اوكي انا اللي بخاف انه نيو فيسز رح يجوا رجع يجوا مع كل الول والهونستي بس ما يكون عندهم needed competence to make the transformation, and they will fail, and the old one will come back and say, look, the new one failed, I did better. So,
but Nicolas, a new parliament isn't a new governance. The governance system, the way we are, the constitution, the confessional system, the clientelism you spoke about.
If I may, the new government will generate the new parliament will generate the new government, and the new government, we need to set such a plan and deliver the plan. You need an independent government for 6 months, technocrats, maybe 7 economic people. يعني ما بدك زراعة وصناعة بدك سوا يعرفوا economy 6 شهور بس. Okay, and they will put it right on the trail. Okay, for example, electricity. As long as you don't have the high al-Nazmi, okay, the independent, You can do any plan. The second minister will come and will change it. They do the Hay'a Nazmi because when they set a strategic plan over 10 years, okay, on the electricity of Lebanon, any new minister that comes cannot change it. It's in the hand of the Hay'a Nazmi, and they will continue the plan to the end. They don't want to do it. They don't want to put it because, you know,
but because of the governance system, because of the confessional system that is killing us.
They're taking advantage. How do you want a political party to finance themselves? A political party that have 10,000 or 5,000 partisans with maybe 50 or 100, I don't know, fixed houses in every village. How do you want to finance it? خلاص من الآخر. Okay, everybody is happy. They ate the whole cake. ما في cake بقى. Okay, so it's collapsing. سعد الحريري قرر يظهر. شابو. Okay, فتح المجال لغيره. فضلوا غيره يعملوا مثله. Who dares?
Yeah, but some people are boycotting the elections because he left. This is the most dangerous part, I think.
This is a problem. We have a problem in the Shab as well. I mean,
exactly.
Come on, we are dying, and they're still not thinking right.
Yeah, exactly. We did a session about this actually with Michael Cooley about leadership, the problem of leadership in Lebanon. So it's a big problem. Walid, let's take your question quickly and then do it, and then we have to close because we are 31 minutes above time. Walid?
To stop at 10.
But we will have a part 2, definitely.
Hello, Nicolas. How are you? Thank you very much. I totally agree with everything you said. However, I'm not as optimistic as you are for the following reason, that in Arabic we say, there is a saying that ضد الخل منه فيه. I mean that these people, the Lebanese people, is so much corrupted, guys. Yani everybody, even when you drive your car, everybody wants that the other guy follow the rule, and he doesn't want to follow the rule. So there is a much deeper problem in this country to implement any rule. So
ماني أكيد وليد، ماني أكيد. أنا بقول لك إنه المسمار الأعوج بيجي من الشكوش، هذا البروفيرب اللي عندنا إياه. And I think if you put a strong institution, and Nicole will agree with me, it's about the institution, the rule of law and the institution. If you put a strong institution, people will comply. I remember at the end of the war, okay, there was no red lights on the streets. Okay, so we were gonna put red lights. People saying, hey, nobody will follow the red lights. Well, after a year, everybody, 80% were following the red lights. When you put a structure and you incentivize the citizen to follow it, or you put red flags if he doesn't follow it, or a stick, if 60%, 70% follow it, you have a state in the country.
70%, 60%, I do agree with you, but it is enough to build a country.
Yes. Today we have 5. So give me 60 and I'll build for you a country. Okay. Give me 30. You can set a structure and you build over it slowly over time. ما في structure. There is no structure. دومت سريع.
Doomit. Last question was Doomit. I'm really sorry, but we have to close. So Doomit.
Doomit.
Yeah, okay. Just a quickie. We are very happy to hear the long-term plans. We've been discussing with Nicolas quite substantially, and okay, good. But we should not forget that from now till any plan can be implemented, there are people who are only living on what they have been saving. You have people retired, you have people that are widowers without income, people without jobs who needs to have solutions. So the central bank have been putting in place certain temporary solutions for those people to live. I just want to propose something to Nicolas or to the group here or to another forum to go into discussing the intermediate plans until we reach that longer term one.
ما فهمت سؤالك دومت.
هو مش سؤال انه just to rephrase it, we are concentrating with your presentation on the 3.0. So like a year or 2 or 6 months or whatever. Meanwhile, people needs to live and to spend, people without income, people who have their money in banks and deposits, who needs to access them and live. We
Okay,
cannot just forget those
I
people.
understand what you are saying. You are right, and this is a problem. Today, what you are saying, the current situation will be worsened by 100%, will worsen by 100% if the government goes into larification the way they are proposing it. Because larification will deteriorate the purchase power of the customer. They will give you $100 million Lebanese lira that cannot buy a bottle of water. Okay, so today they are able still to live. If they larify the lira, people will go into the street and open the trash boxes to eat. Okay, they start doing it. Okay, today you don't see too much. You have 5% of the population that are getting money from outside the country. You see them in the restaurants. The other are really struggling, and some of them are starving. Okay, today we have to fight back what they are trying to do, because clarification is the easiest way. أنا بعملها. مين في هون حيلا واحد حيلا student 18 سنة 18 years old, he can do clarification on Excel. I can do it for you. Okay, the difficult part is to make the structural change. Clarification means what? Not only destroying the value for the depositor that is already destroyed, as you said, but clarification means they will not be accountable. Because if they want to distribute the losses rightly, that means losses are accepted and agreed. And when you agree that you made losses, that you are accountable of these losses. They don't want to be accountable. They want to reduce the money in the bank to a certain level that they can still get out of it. Fashar, I'm here. I hope you are with me. Pamela, آخر سؤال. Sorry, Randa.
Okay, رح نعمل بس
Although I'm
آخر
really
سؤال.
sorry, I wouldn't want to interrupt Mrs. Nicole, but I'd love to hear her question. You mentioned a lot of aspects in regards to the rule of law. We also discussed Ms. Nicole mentioned that the fact that there's institutions that should hold strength in those regards. But what the main issue here is not whether there is political stability or not, although it is a main factor to even prolong any type of economic plan. The issue I think here is law enforcement. لأنه the collection of taxes, everything is done through law enforcement. So where is this law enforcement? How can it be done if we do not discuss a constitutional reform من الأساس? And نحن the country currently, what it needs is a complete constitutional reform from the base. يعني let's eliminate everything, the system, the legal system, every type of treaty that has ever been done. لأنه how the excess factors are putting us down the road. That's it. Whether there is a new election or not, the system is completely at failure. It's about time we admit it. That's it.
Pamela, you are right. That's why I insisted that the rule of law is the first thing to do. But as Saeed said, before the rule of law, you need to ensure that you have a system that can enforce it. Okay, as long as you have a paramilitary equation outside the government, you will never be able to do it. So the problem is here. Solutions are available, right solution. Okay, I propose one, some other economists propose others, whatever. Apply half of them, they will work. But the government is not proposing the right one. And you said that we need to do a new constitution. Okay, rule of law, I agree. So to apply the rule of law, you have independence of justice. In the constitution, does anyone read the constitution? This is my question to you.
I have. I was a law student.
I teach it to my student at USG with the e-government. Okay, our constitution, let's be fair to it, is good. Not perfect. It's good. Okay, it needs some tweaks to avoid, blockage right and left, and it needs maybe one clause that. Because the constitution guarantees the independence of the three structure, parliament, government, and legal. So they are independent, guaranteed by the constitution, but they don't guarantee the independence of the juridical system. So we need to add one clause in the constitution that guarantee not the independence between the three structures, but the independence of one structure, which is the juridical one. It's not in the constitution. And this is critical to build the rule of law. Okay. Second, we need, once you have the rule of law, you have a justice that will impose the application of the constitution, because our problem today is not the constitution. Now 80% is okay. Like all the constitution in the world, the constitution are reviewed every 10 years, 15 years, okay? 70% are okay, but they are not applied, okay?
Why?
So if we add one rule through a law, through a constitution clause, I'm not the expert in this, okay, that guarantee the independence of justice. You start having the rule of law ready with no compromise, okay? On the law is the law. The lawyers say dura lex sed lex. La loi est dure mais c'est la loi. Okay, so the rule of law need to be applied. Once it's applied, okay, the whole system will start working. Institution will start working. Accountability will start working. No one has went to prison for the last 30 years, yeah, Pamela. No one.
It's the people's fault. It's the people's fault.
The death of the century. And no
the
one
only people you can blame currently are the Lebanese citizens keeping on voting for the same people, being ruled for the past 30 years by the same government, the same people, the same faces.
Change will come here. And if we manage by any miracle to get this independence of justice right, even if they voted wrong, I think we start building something.
Let's hope. Next election.
And I want to give hope. We have solutions, we have power, we have minds.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And we need to dream again and be happy. Thank you very much.
Great, amazing session. I think we're going to have a part 2 because there's a lot of things to talk about still. So I invite you, as I said, to check our upcoming sessions on the link I sent you, ihavelearned.me/events. I would like to thank again Konrad Adenauer Stiftung for their trust in making this series of talks that we've been doing for almost 3 years. And also the exhibition Arts and Politics that you can check on our website www.artsandpolitics.me. So our next talk would be next Tuesday, and we will announce more sessions very soon. So thanks again, everyone. Very big thank you for Nicolas and for everyone on this call. So yes, everyone is claiming another session with you. يعني Nicolas خلاص you have an اعطيني دات من هلا لأنه بتطول. So we can already do that. So I will send you a quick email with like an evaluation form and just some topics you would like to hear about. So stay tuned and see you very soon. Thank you for staying till the end and over time.
Let's make Lebanon great again. We have great people. So. Please, we can do it. Okay.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Thank you, Nicolas. Thank you all. Bye.
All the association and NGO that hosted us. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you.